I'm Azaria Tagaya, and this is Nightline, the top stories. Prime Minister says speed up affordable housing build, skip the groundbreaking gimmicks. Good morning. The Prime Minister has called for all affordable housing projects to be completed within the set timeline. Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim said any approvals related to the development of these projects must also be finalised within 2 weeks. According to Anwar, the projects must be carried out without delay to allow residents to move in as soon as possible.
Saya nak supaya projek ini dijalankan segera. Apa-apa peraturan dan kelulusan nasi kena cepat. Saya tidak setuju nak lancar-lancar rumah luncur-luncur, orang datang tepuk tangan semua, lepas tu hilang 2-3 bulan. No. Jadi Tok Bandar kena terang kepada saya minggu depan.
He said developing affordable housing projects must be the priority, particularly in high-cost areas such as Kuala Lumpur.
Bangunkan rumah orang kaya, kadang-kadang komisionnya lebih tinggi. Bangunan rumah-rumah rendah, rumah-rumah kos rendah, komisionnya sangat kecil. Jadi nak pilih apa? Nak pilih komision atau nak pilih nak jaga rakyat? Saya katakan kerajaan ini mesti jaga supaya kepentingan rakyat mendapat pembelaan.
Anwar said this in his speech at the groundbreaking ceremony for the Rumah Belia Madani and Affordable Housing Project in Mukim Batu, Kuala Lumpur on Tuesday. He added that affordable housing projects should include essential facilities such as playgrounds, mosques and other necessary amenities upon completion. The development of the Rumah Belia Madani and Affordable Housing Project in Mukim Batu, undertaken by a private company, involves the construction of over 3,000 residential units. Construction is set to begin next year, with completion expected by 2030. The Education Ministry will extend immediate assistance to the 96 students and 3 wardens affected by the fire that destroyed a dormitory block at Sekolah Menengah Kebangsaan Tinggi Setapak in Kuala Lumpur on Monday. Its Minister Fadlina Siddiq said the aid will include replacing the books and school supplies that were destroyed in the blaze. The Minister, who took a closer look at the damages early on Tuesday, also instructed for repair work to be carried out without delay. At the same time, the Federal Territory of Kuala Lumpur Education Department Director Megat Effendi Ismail said the implementation of home-based teaching and learning will begin on Wednesday and will run for 2 weeks to help the victims recover and regain their emotional well-being. The affected students will be temporarily accommodated at the teachers' quarters.
Kita pun dah dapat persetujuan daripada Menteri bahawa kita akan gunakan kuarter sementara ni. InsyaAllah hari ini saya akan hubungi TNB dan juga AI untuk masukkan, sebab kita di kuarter baru saja dibaiki, kuarter guru. So dia akan insyaAllah dalam tempoh 2 minggu ataupun seminggu kita akan settlekan.
Shuttle buses will also be provided to help the affected students commute to and from school. The fire, which occurred at about 8:40 p.m. on Monday, involved a single-storey dormitory with 4 student rooms and 2 warden rooms, causing damage to 80% of the structure. No casualties were reported as the students were at the school surau performing congregational Isha prayers. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. Malaysians holding Umrah or tourist visas are strongly advised to leave Mecca before the Hajj season begins to avoid facing strict action by the government of Saudi Arabia. Consul General of Malaysia in Jeddah, Roslan Sharif, said individuals who defy the regulations and perform the Hajj without valid permits risk detention, deportation, fines and blacklisting. He therefore urged Malaysians intending to perform Hajj to ensure they obtain a valid Hajj visa through official channels such as the Lembaga Tabung Haji. Roslan said this soon after Saudi Arabia announced penalties for individuals who violate regulations requiring a permit to perform the Hajj, as well as for those who facilitate such violations beginning this Hajj season. A fine of up to 100,000 riyals or about 116,000 ringgit will be imposed on anyone who applies for a visit visa for an individual who has performed or attempted to perform the Hajj without a permit. The same goes to those who have entered or stayed in Mecca city and the holy sites during the specified period. The fine will multiply for each individual involved. The same fine will also apply to anyone who transports or attempts to transport visit visa holders to Mecca city and the holy sites during the specified period, as well as to those who shelter or attempt to shelter visit visa holders in any accommodation, including hotels, apartments, private housing, shelters or Hajj pilgrims housing sites. The fine will multiply for each individual sheltered, concealed or assisted. The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission MECC has identified several individuals believed to be involved in illegal land encroachment in Raub Pahang. MECC Chief Commissioner Tan Sri Azam Baki said investigators are now working to track down those involved, including current and former officers who once served at the Land and Mines Office as well as the District Office.
Azam said some of the suspects identified had served in those offices as far back as a decade ago, with some now already retired.
Menjadi satu cabaran juga kepada pegawai menyiasat saya untuk buat tracing lah, checking background siapa yang bertugas ketika itu. Jadi ambil masa sedikit lah, dan terutama sekali kepada mereka yang meneroka. Bagaimana mereka boleh meneroka. Jadi keadilan dalam penyiasatan ini adalah penting.
No arrests have been made so far. Azam added that the probe is not only focused on administrative misconduct, but also aims to uncover how such illegal land development could be carried out, as well as how long it had been going on. The media previously reported that parts of government land and forest reserves in Raub had been illegally cleared for the cultivation of Musangking durian. Enforcement efforts have since intensified, with the Pahang State Enforcement Unit seizing heavy machinery used to clear the land. Meanwhile, the MECC said its investigation into alleged corruption and money laundering involving former Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob is currently 20% completed. Azam said the process is taking time as the Borough Member of Parliament has been asked to declare his assets.
Kami dari segi kita untuk memastikan apakah yang diisytiharkan itu benar ataupun tidak. Menjadi satu kesalahan sekiranya pengisytiharan itu adalah merupakan pengisytiharan yang tidak benar ataupun tidak mencukupi.
Azam confirmed that Ismail Sabri will be called in again within the next 2 weeks to give further statements. The former Prime Minister was first summoned by the MECC on February 19th, where he gave a statement as a suspect in the case. The investigation also involves 4 of his former senior officers. The probe has so far led to the discovery of 170 million ringgit in cash in various foreign currencies, along with 16 kilograms of gold bars valued at around 7 million ringgit.
Malaysia is exploring a new green technology capable of turning palm oil waste into a clean alternative for coal for electricity generation. Plantation and Commodities Minister Datuk Sri Johari Abdul Ghani revealed that the innovation, currently in its pilot phase, is already attracting interest from international buyers, including Japan.
The minister was speaking during his official visit to the Wilhelmina Malaysia Energy Pilot Facility in Gebeng Pahang, a renewable energy project developed by a Dutch firm. There, the minister was briefed on the production of TG2 black pellets, a biofuel made from empty fruit bunches, a waste byproduct of local palm oil mills with the potential to replace coal in energy production.
Yang kita pakai ni selalunya adalah normal pellet yang kita buat daripada kita punya empty fruit bunch, EFB. But this technology is slightly different because the end product of this EFB pellet, they are able to replace coal.
Johari expressed confidence that the innovation will add significant value to the local palm oil industry and Malaysia's green economy. He called on palm oil mill operators to allocate between 10 and 20% of their empty fruit bunches to support the supply chain for this emerging technology.
I would certainly would like to invite mana-mana kilang yang ada dalam kawasan ini untuk melawat and see and how they produce this and how that will benefit kita punya environment dari segi creating a circular economy from the waste.
The new technology could position Malaysia as a key global exporter of TG2 black pellets in the renewable energy market.
The government will postpone the implementation of the expanded Sales and Service Tax SST to June 1st. According to the Finance Ministry, guidelines for the expansion are currently being refined to ensure smooth execution. The Ministry said engagement sessions with industry players across the country have been completed towards finalising the scope of the expansion and the applicable tax rates. During the tabling of the 2025 budget last October, Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim announced the government's initial plan to expand the scope of the SST on May 1st. Malaysia is gearing up for a second round of discussions with the United States following a productive meeting with US trade officials. According to the Investment, Trade and Industry Ministry, one of its senior officials will be appointed as chief negotiator to lead the talks on behalf of Malaysia. The move is aimed at allowing both governments to engage in more detailed negotiations on the way forward. In the meantime, the outcome of last week's meeting is expected to be further deliberated at the National Geo-Economic Command Centre meeting on Wednesday, which will be chaired by Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim. US President Donald Trump's administration will move to reduce the impact of his automotive tariffs on Tuesday by alleviating some duties imposed on foreign parts in domestically manufactured cars and keeping tariffs on cars made abroad from piling on top of other ones. A statement provided by the White House said the deal is a major victory for the president's trade policy, which is rewarding companies who manufacture domestically while providing runway to manufacturers who have expressed their commitment to invest in the US and expand their domestic manufacturing. The move also means that tariff-paying car companies will not be charged other levies such as those on steel and aluminium, and that reimbursements will be given for such tariffs that have already been paid. An assistant engineer at a government ministry and her husband have been remanded for allegedly soliciting and accepting 15,000 ringgit in bribes from a developer. The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission (MACC) secured the 5-day remand order from the Seremban Magistrates Court on Tuesday. The bribe was an inducement to obtain information related to a housing development in a district in Selangor. The two had allegedly accepted the bribe in 2 installments between February and April this year. It is learnt that the duo were detained around 6 p.m. on Monday when they turned up to have their statements recorded at the state MACC office. More than 20 killed in restaurant fire in China. The details when Nightline returns. Back with us on Nightline. South Africa told the International Court of Justice (ICJ) on Tuesday that international law prohibits Israel from using starvation as a method of warfare. On day 2 of the hearings, the South African representative emphasized that Palestinians are human beings despite the horrific attempts by Israeli officials to characterize them otherwise. Saudi Arabia, meanwhile, told the ICJ that Israel has disregarded the court's legally binding provisional orders and worsened the humanitarian crisis. Speaking for Belgium, Professor Vios Kotrulis said Gaza once again faces the risk of famine and malnutrition as no food or medical supplies have reached its 2.3 million residents since March 2nd. The ICJ will be holding hearings throughout this week as representatives from 40 countries and 4 international organizations are expected to present oral submissions.
Earlier on Monday, Malaysia told the court that Israel's aim is the ultimate displacement and elimination of Palestinians. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Law and Institutional Reform, Datuk Seri Azalina Uthman Said, submitted that in the past weeks, the world witnessed a renewed war against Palestinians in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank.
Most recently, Israel has legislated to ban the operation of UNRWA in the OPT, essentially stopping the only humanitarian organization that has assumed comprehensive responsibility for the provision of the civilian population.
She said statements by senior Israeli officials leave no doubt of their intentions to bring about the ultimate denial of the Palestinian people's right to self-determination and to their eventual displacement and elimination.
Canada's Liberal Party won a 4th term in office on Monday, capping a miraculous political resurrection, but fell short of the majority government Prime Minister Mark Carney had wanted to allow him to negotiate tariffs with US President Donald Trump.
The Liberals were leading or elected in 167 electoral districts known as seats, followed by the Conservatives with 145, with votes still being counted. The Liberals need to win 172 of the House of Commons' 343 seats for a majority to allow them to govern without support from a smaller party. Carney stressed that the coming months would be challenging and require sacrifices. In his victory speech, he said their old relationship with the US is, quote-unquote, now over.
Our old relationship with the United States, a relationship based on steadily increasing integration, is over. President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. That will never, ever happen.
Carney also gave a stark assessment of a world order once defined by an integrated global trading system with the US at the center, and said such a system was over, as he pledged to reshape Canada's relationships with other nations.
A restaurant fire in northeastern China has killed at least 22 people and injured 3 others. The fire broke out on Tuesday at 12:25 p.m. local time at a restaurant in Liaoning province. Authorities said at least 22 fire trucks and 85 firefighters were deployed to the scene. Local media did not identify the cause of the fire. However, President Xi Jinping called it a deeply sobering lesson and urged local officials to determine what triggered the blaze and hold those responsible to account. 4 people were killed and several others injured in the U.S. on Monday after a vehicle crashed through a building used by an after-school camp in Illinois. Police said they responded to the scene at about 3:20 p.m. local time when the vehicle drove through the east side of the Why Not after-school camp. The vehicle struck multiple people outside the building in Chatham, then continued through the building, hitting several others before exiting at the opposite side. The victims are believed to range in age from 4 to 18, with 3 of the dead struck outside the building, while 1 was hit inside. 6 people were injured and taken to hospital by ambulance and helicopters. Police said the driver was unhurt and taken to hospital for evaluation. Investigation for motive is ongoing, but it remains unclear if the incident was deliberate. Power has gradually returned to households in Spain and neighbouring Portugal after cities across the Iberian Peninsula were plunged into darkness in one of Europe's most severe blackouts on Monday. By Tuesday morning, more than 99% of power supply was restored, with power back in 6.2 million out of 6.5 million households in Portugal. However, the state of emergency remains in place in Spain to maintain order as the country deals with the aftermath of the cuts. Investigators are still looking into the cause of the blackout, which remains unclear, while authorities have denied foul play and rumours of a cyber attack. Meanwhile, the Portuguese grid operator said there was a very large oscillation in the electrical voltages, first in the Spanish system, which then spread to the Portuguese network. And that is it for Nightline. Before we leave, let's take a look at Ho Chi Minh City as its streets come to life with performances in preparation for the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War. I'm Azaria Tagaya. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.